Now, the Bram Weinstein Show on Washington's new home for sports, ESPN 630.
Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. I'm feeling better, everyone.
Oh.
Mystery solved, by the way.
That would help. Yeah, there you go. Mystery solved.
Mystery solved.
Oh, what is that?
Something was running through the old family at a family event
Oh,
last weekend.
super spreader.
I got a bug from somebody because someone else in the family also found out I got sick and was like, I was laid up for a full day with a weird stomach, can't get out of bed situation. So, see, I didn't need to go to a doctor. I knew it.
I mean, it was pretty bad. You
It was
you
really
can't
bad.
deny that. Like,
It was scary bad. I'm like, what's up? This
yeah,
isn't
I
right.
was giving you crap because it was
bird
like,
flu. I know. What do I got? Mad cow? Like, what's going on now? My year with health has not been good.
COVID-20.
Yeah, no kidding. I know. I got a new strain of something, guys. I don't know what it is. I'm patient zero.
Yeah, you have been through the ringer this year.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's nonstop. My family jokes it's every 3 weeks I get something weird. Something weird.
Yeah.
I had a root canal. I had COVID. I had something at my normal after the season illness of my body caught up to me.
The purging.
The purging. Then 3 days ago, threw up in front of Callow for no reason
It was
whatsoever.
not literally in front of me.
Close. It was darn close.
You had to run out of here, yeah.
I had to run out of here. And then I had to give you the salute like this ain't happening. I'm out of here. And then went to sleep for 24 hours straight. And now I can't sleep, by the way.
What?
Yeah.
Can't sleep. Okay.
No, I was up till 3 a.m. last night for no reason
What?
whatsoever. Can't sleep.
What?
My body is so messed up, I can't even begin to explain. I don't know what's going on.
I learned
I'm an old man. I don't know what happened.
I learned recently because I was having trouble sleeping as well that if you don't eat enough calories, you actually can't sleep.
Maybe that's part of my problem. Maybe.
Just telling you.
Yeah, I'm keeping my weight down, as you know. I'm
Both of
eating
us.
well.
We're both doing pretty well.
Yeah.
This show's probably lost like 100 pounds this year.
Yeah, look at that.
Probably. I would
Whoop,
think.
there it is.
Right. But yeah, no, I learned that and then I started eating more. And then I actually got better night's sleep. So I'm just throwing you what happened to me.
I got so much to talk about today. Let's see. I'm going to do Ben Johnson round 2 because he explained himself again. So I'll do that.
I didn't even see that
I'll
one.
send that to you. A 2-minute piece on why he's not a head coach right now.
All right.
I'll let you hear that in a little bit. I got to weigh in on Trump. I will at some point. I don't know when, but I will. I have a few things to say about it.
I just know if someone was over 34, we'd be talking about it on this show.
Yeah.
Oh.
DFA'd. Let's see. Yeah.
DFA.
Yeah. Donald Robles over there needs to find a new
Joey Gallo, but same difference.
Tara Mckeown's going to join us at the bottom of the hour, the defender of the Spirit, on what it turned out to be a week off because it was national team week. So everybody's rosters were eradicated. We had 6 players from the Spirit go up to practice with the national team this week.
Yep.
So they had what is a week off, which is kind of a bad week off for them because they've been red hot. So it was an odd week to have a week off.
It'll be fun, though. They play South Korea tomorrow at 5, which boat race about to happen. So
that'll be fun.
That'll be fun to watch tomorrow.
Let's start with the Mavericks, though. The Mavericks, who did beat the Timberwolves last night, get back to the NBA Finals for the first time since Dirk and Jason Kidd was a player. Now he's a coach there. That's interesting.
Yep.
Daniel Gafford is the center for the Mavericks. Kristaps Porzingis may or may not play is the center-ish for the Celtics. So we've got our ties there. Kyrie gets to go back to Boston, which is actually really fun.
It's a fun
I didn't
one.
even think about that one. I kept thinking about KG versus Boston, and I thought that would be really fun. Minnesota and Boston and KG, and trying to figure out where he's going to sit courtside, if not both or one, or which it's going to be. No, now we get Kyrie back, and of course they hate him.
You are right, yeah.
Because that's when that was the beginning of his spiral, actually, was there. He just quit on them. He just didn't want to play for them. And then, he turned into a spokesman for all sorts of alternative theories, which got him.
Kyrie Irving.
Yeah. The pandemic was not good for him.
Right.
It was not, in many, many, many ways, was not good for him. And then he went to Dallas and started to like basketball again. And he's turned into, Stan Van Gundy calls it best backcourt ever. And I don't know that he's totally off.
I mean,
here.
Kyrie's one of the best ball handlers ever. So,
and Luka's a monster.
Luka's amazing, yeah.
So, it wasn't as crazy as it sounded. And then last night, he's like crowing about it when Luka had 20 in the first quarter and Kyrie was unstoppable. And he's going, go ahead, guys, in the studio and keep making fun of me when I tell you this is the best backcourt I've ever seen.
Yeah.
At least in this short period of time. This postseason run, the two of them are outrageous. They showed a stat last night of Luka. He's averaging 35 points a game after a loss, which is the best ever by anybody. So he's rebounding, off of a loss better than anybody. He's turned into a complete sociopath, screams and yells and curses out everybody, including fans, the other team, coaches, whoever, himself, his teammates, whatever. And they're rolling, and so they head into the finals. I'll guess we'll try to figure out who's going to win it first. But I want to go back to the game last night, which was a full-on embarrassment by Minnesota. I mean, that was really embarrassingly bad. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Luka, who was unbelievable in the first quarter, and Kyrie, who was unbelievable the rest of the game. But they were fully unprepared for them, which is weird in Game 5 at home, to be fully unprepared for them. And then the way they responded to try to stop Luka from scoring was idiotic.
Right.
It was idiotic. They decided, after he had scored 20 points on them in the first quarter, that, we got to get the ball out of his hands. So they started double teaming him near midcourt. Now, I'm no mathematician here, but considering Kyrie Irving's on that team, allowing, if Luka gets the ball out of his hands relatively quickly, you now have 4-on-3 with half the court to work with Kyrie Irving with the ball.
Who's going to find whoever's open very fast.
That's your plan?
Right, yeah.
Your reaction is, this is getting so bad, we need to get the ball out of his hands the second he crosses midcourt. So much so, we're going to put 2 people on him on a logo. And then, wisely, he just gives it up, and then it's 4-on-3. Good luck with that.
Yeah, right.
So, from a coaching perspective, it was really bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really bad. I don't know that Jason Kidd gets a tremendous amount of credit as a really good coach, but this postseason run ought to change the trajectory of him. I don't know how much credit he should get for getting Kyrie back and thinking about basketball and playing to his ability again, but there's got to be some level of coaching involved in that. He's been around the block a million times. Luka's turned into the playoff monster that I think we knew he could be. He can be the best player on the court on any given night. And then last night, Minnesota looked like an extremely inexperienced and shook team at the worst possible time at home. Like, I didn't understand what they were doing. I'm like, I get it. Like, you got to get the ball out of this guy's hands, and he's red hot, and he's going to beat you by himself. But their decisions about how to go about it made no sense to me and felt almost like AAU league style. Like, that guy's too good, don't let him shoot. Okay, what about the other 4 NBA players on the court? And one of them happens to be one of the best point guards ever. Are you kidding? So, no kidding, they couldn't stop them.
Yeah.
The plan was stupid. And I think they just kind of got shook. Well, really what it looked like. That's not what they planned to do. That's just how they reacted. This was their adjustment. And their adjustment was stupid.
Right. Well, that was the whole series, in my opinion. The Timberwolves kept kind of just making too many mistakes the whole entire series. That was the MO. And it was like, this is what happens when you get guys that have gotten this deep in the playoffs for the first time. They don't know how to handle it. And that
goes back to that question last week. They're like, don't you have to lose on a big stage? Like, we've been losing for 20 years. Yeah. And like, how much more do you want us to lose? And then, this guy got his answer. They flamed out on one of the biggest stages.
You have to personally lose.
Yeah. You have to personally lose on a big stage. And I'm still not certain that the better team isn't Minnesota in totality, but those 2 other players are surefire Hall of Famers. And I think Ant may be too.
I think it was Jay Will that was on with Greeny yesterday, and they were kind of kicking around. And I might have mentioned this to you yesterday too, where does Karl Anthony Towns know he's the number 2?
Yeah.
Because I think that's where this is also splintering a little bit too, is the Ant talk all of a sudden, I think, kind of overtook as this is the clear-cut number 1, where I think they didn't really probably care until now. And now all of a sudden it's that's the number 1. And Cat's like, what? What do you mean? I'm the definitively number 2 now? I don't know about that one.
The best teams handle adversity.
Yes.
Now, the interesting part about Boston, I'll get into this in a minute, is they haven't had to deal with any of it yet.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah.
Because
they've had the easiest run into the finals maybe ever. I think ever. And I think what's weird about it is everyone kind of knocks them for it, but they had the best record in the league.
No,
they were wire to wire. They were wire favorite.
They did the best record. They won the East easily. They got very fortunate with the opponents that they got at the time that they got them because of the injuries that occurred to them. So they had the easiest road to get there. So they haven't faced what happens when somebody makes an adjustment and embarrasses you, what are you going to do the next night? Right. And they haven't faced anything like that yet. So we don't really know how they're going to handle it. But the Mavericks have, and have turned around and shown the ability to do it. In Minnesota, it's odd because now I'm kind of like, how'd they beat Denver? I'm totally like thrown by that. Like once they beat Denver, I'm like, I don't know that Dallas can beat them. If they can go and beat Denver in Game 7 in Denver, then they can beat anybody. And then they turned around and they laid 4 eggs, 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that last night that really got me was, well, there were 2 things. And you mentioned Karl Anthony Towns. Like, he was settling for threes in this series, and he shouldn't be.
Oh, no,
right? He really shouldn't be.
His decision-making was boneheaded the whole series.
Terrible.
Like, might have been the worst player on their side.
Yes, and then but he clearly heard that and made an effort to try to go to the basket more, which was the right thing to do, but it often caused a lot of bad decisions and inefficient offense, and they weren't spaced right. And then when they showed that one graphic that, like, while Luka had 20 points in the first quarter and they're up by whatever number they were, the guy with the most shots for Minnesota was Gobert.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, well, who? Like, so this to me was like, they got induced into shooting. Some of the best coaching is just make the other team do the things you want them to do, and you live and die by those results.
Right.
They clearly were like, let Gobert shoot. We'd rather him over Ant or Cat doing it.
Yep, right.
So let him do it, and we'll live with that. Like, as long as they're not dunks, like, go ahead. Like, have at it. If he makes them, he makes them. But I'd rather him beat us than the other guys. So Dallas induced them early into running an offense through the wrong guy, and then defensively shredded them to the point where they made a preposterous adjustment to it, and it didn't work. And then they're down by 1 million. And I turned the second half off. I knew they weren't coming back. Like, there was no chance. They weren't going to come back.
Yep.
So that's a real massive failure and exposure of a team that I thought had turned a corner after they beat Denver, and they didn't. So I want to credit Dallas because they induced them to play inefficient basketball, bad spacing, ran an offense through the wrong guy, and defensively, they were soft, weak, and had no answer, and their answers were stupid.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Really bad. Really bad.
Windhorse was on Unsportsmanlike this morning, and he brought up, like, the worst case scenario for that franchise, by the way. You know, their ownership is in, like, arbitration about, like, who actually owns the team right now.
Minnesota, yeah.
And he was saying that if this doesn't get figured out, he was hearing there's a possibility they might have to trade Cat because if they don't know who's writing the checks, all of a sudden, like, the team can't just afford to give him, because he's making like $50 million a year now. He got the super extension or whatever, the super max, whatever. They might have to trade him because the check would bounce. And I'm like,
what?
That's a little ridiculous. Like, can the league not?
How would the check bounce?
Right.
There's a salary cap for a reason.
Right. And so
because it's negotiated by how much money comes into the league. That in salary cap leagues, I never want to hear this.
Yeah. And so I was very much like, can the league step in here?
Baseball, I'll hear it out. Like the Padres came close to that last year. We learned that, which is why they traded Soto and why they talked about doing some other things. But they're not in a salary cap league. They just like, let's go for it. Screw it. If we lose money and win, we'll deal with it.
That's
and we'll take it. In the NBA or the NFL, no one should be losing money on player contracts.
Right, exactly. And so I was kind of like,
they're capped for a reason.
I was very much like, the league can't let that happen. Like, you can't. That's a guy any team would keep. They wouldn't just trade because they can't afford him. Like, I was very much like, is he being dead serious right now?
Their future's murky because and the primary owner, still Glenn Taylor, already outed A-Rod and his group and said that part of their plan was to cut back payroll. So I think that they were to try to make them look bad more than anything. Because, he made a deal with them, Taylor, and then the price of the franchise went up because of subsequent sales after he made the deal. And then A-Rod and his group missed deadlines to make payments, which gave him an out not to actually go through with the sale. It is actually a misnomer. A-Rod and his group do own a minority percentage of the team. That's already set, and that's not to be taken away from them. What they don't have is majority control, and they're going to be in the courts to figure out if they're allowed to still get majority control if they pay the requisite fees to do so.
Yeah.
So that team could very much be in flux. And then we've heard like the architect of it, Tim Connolly, who built the Nuggets and then went to Minnesota and built a really good team there. He's probably watching all this going, I'm a free agent now.
That's right.
Because I'm not going to deal with this. I'd rather go somewhere else. And there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to I look at like someone like the Lakers and I go get him.
Yep. Yep,
Let
exactly.
him go fix
He can
this
not only
for you.
build your team back up, he can build the anti of the other
Right.
two teams he's built.
And
apparently.
oh, by the way, since the Lakers love stars, guess what? He found stars in Denver and Minnesota.
Yeah, right.
He's capable of doing. He's capable of doing all of it.
That's the most impressive thing I've ever heard, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Ant was the number one pick.
No, of
so,
course.
and so was Cat.
Of
So,
course.
like, like that. You hope
But they still worked out.
They did.
They worked out.
They did. Ant really worked out. Cat's taken a long time. And I think as a true number one, wasn't able to lead them there. Once they got Ant, all of a sudden now they're this. But like he's going to be the free agent of all free agents if he goes, I don't want anything to do with this rigmarole anymore. So they're going to be funny to watch here. And I agree. I think something weird. Nobody on earth can let Anthony Edwards leave.
Right. Like
that's
not
stupidity.
Well, and that's even what
Right.
that's even what Windhorst was saying. Like he was like, it's not Edwards, it's Cat
No,
that you
no
got to watch
chance.
here. So yeah.
Anthony Edwards too good.
Yeah, yeah.
And they've already made this mistake once where they got out prematurely on Kevin Garnett for no
Right.
reason whatsoever. So like Anthony Edwards, I would think no matter who's in control, like he's stuck. Like they're never going to let him go. But I could see Karl Anthony Towns being on the market.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, that'll be an interesting trade if that actually goes down. And then we'll see what Minnesota looks like on the other side. For Dallas, I give them a lot of credit. Like they're a 5 seed.
Yeah, right.
They're a 5 seed.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Good for them. It was a weird year. The 1 seed was a very young team who's turned a corner, and they beat them. Good for them. They did it. Like they won. They beat the Clippers, and similar to Boston, the Clippers didn't really have Kawhi for most of it, so they didn't really catch the Clippers, like at their best. Then they went and beat Oklahoma City. There's no excuses for them other than they're young, and this was their first real go at all of this. And then they get into this series. They're the road team, and they totally embarrassed them.
That's right.
You completely embarrassed them. So I give them a lot of credit. They're way more buttoned up. Their 2 stars were ready to roll. It all came together for them. I think this makes for an interesting final series. Porzingis playing is going to be a big deal. I don't know whether he plays or not.
They're saying he's going to play. They just don't know when yet. I mean, whether that's game 1 or after that.
The good news for them is because of this, it's planned to start at a certain date. I don't think no one ever plans for these series to go 4 and 5. That's what happened. So there's a week before they're going to start. So it gives him an extra week to try to go. We'll have to see what he looks like if he plays, and if he doesn't, I don't love Boston in this. They haven't really looked the part, but then everyone downplays Tatum as if he's like, oh, he's kind of a non-factor. What are you talking about?
No, that's
it's silly,
patently false.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown. I felt this way for a while. Jaylen Brown's the better player. Like. In my opinion, he's the better player. But that's not to be dismissive of Tatum. I think they have 2 massive superstars on their team. Everybody wants to find something wrong with them. Meantime, they had the best record in the league. They skated through the playoffs, albeit with, weird circumstances that I think they got very fortunate with. They played 3 teams that were without their best player for portions or all of those series. I mean, that's just very fortunate that happened for them. They still lost 2 games in 3 series. I mean, what are we complaining about with them?
Right.
They're here now. I think this is going to be a very interesting series. And then Kyrie goes back there, and that adds to it. And we'll hear what he has to say about it. He's going to have to address it because they're going to talk to him about it. And the Celtics had the better record, so they'll have the home games.
Yeah.
So, game 1 is going to be all about what does he think about going back to Boston. I'll see what he has to say about it.
I'm going to guess, people don't really realize this with him. He's only 32. That was 7 years ago. He was 24, 25 years old. You and I talk about this all the time with a lot of different athletes across a lot of sports. The 24, 25-year-old athlete is a completely different person than the 32-year-old. I mean, I would even say with Kyrie, 32-year-old Kyrie is different from 28-year-old Kyrie from 4 years ago. He's learned a bunch. I'm not trying to go full redemption here because I thought that was a little much last night, by the way, about him coming back. I was like, all right,
I'm not comfortable with this. This is the old when you play well, winning kind of cures and it kind of brushes over all the faults. I already know what's going to happen this fall if the Jets are really good. People are going to forget about all the things that Aaron Rodgers has said, all the divisive things that he's done, and they're just going to be happy that they're seeing a really good quarterback play, and they're going to call it some kind of redemption thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that should mask all of the divisive things that they've done. And I feel the same way about Kyrie.
Yeah.
Maybe not to the same degree, but to a similar degree.
Yeah.
Less about the COVID stuff really, but more really about all the stuff that he was trying to push that was,
the book recommendations.
The book recommendations and just, rewriting history and it was clearly anti-Semitic, language and thought processes. that's hard for me to just let go.
Of course.
I appreciate his talent. I appreciate the way he plays. I've heard this in many different forms. You separate the artist from their personalities. Like, there's plenty of, listen, like, I think Kanye West's music is amazing.
Right.
I don't like a lot of the things that he's done personally.
The old Kanye.
Yeah, the old guy. Like, I love it. His music's amazing, right? Like, I can separate this, that his music is amazing, but the person is not someone that I am very attached to.
Of course.
I think he's a very bad person, the way he talks about certain things. I think we're learning about P. Diddy in real time. Like, his music was great, too, back in the day. I appreciate all his music, but, like, now...
Right.
I'm not rolling with him anymore.
Right.
And with Kyrie, this is different. It's not to that degree, obviously, in either one of those cases, but he was spouting some of the same things that Kanye was too. So, like, it's hard for me to kind of mask all of that. And so but this is, again, it goes back to when you're winning, people just overlook all of that stuff. And all of a sudden it's some kind of redemption story, which I thought was a little
I agree.
rich
And like, look,
me.
if we want to commend him for, cool, you've now separated your work and your opinions.
Yeah.
I'll commend him for that because he couldn't keep his mouth shut for 2 years right there.
Yeah.
And then he went to Dallas and all of a sudden he was all business. And I'm not trying to say, like, let's muzzle everybody, but the things he was saying, it was like, dude, you can't say that out loud and then expect people not to ask you about it. So I'm all about, like, you grew up and you matured of, I don't need to spew all of these things all the time. But yeah, the so happy for this guy type post I've seen from, like, the NBA aggregate accounts. It was like, all right, guys, the guy has a ring too. Like, let's all calm down here.
Look, I mean, he won a lot when he was young.
Sure.
And you know what? Maybe he got bored with basketball for a little bit.
Maybe.
Or maybe he didn't really like living in Boston. And then he went to Brooklyn and things got weird because there were injuries around him and then the COVID stuff happened and he had his own particular feelings about it. He got caught up in it.
He was the target for that team too. I mean,
he was a target. He became a poster child for a lot of the anti-vax stuff. Even, like, I have no issue with, like, those are his particular feelings about the whole thing, but he became a target for it. So some of that was a little out of his control. A lot of it really wasn't.
Right.
And then he really wasn't performing on the court the way we were accustomed to. Well, he found it again.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, he's a young man who grew up, matured. Now he's taking the sport very seriously again, and he happens to be one of the best in the world.
Yep.
And we can all see that. The other thing that happened last night, and I'm not totally sure about this, but the other thing that happened last night was I think it is possible we did see the last inside the NBA. Yeah, they have one more year left. The rights deals, it's been a big deal that TNT's probably losing it, which means NBC's going to get their package, ESPN will keep their package, Amazon's going to have some kind of package, and TNT would be out. And therefore, inside the NBA, as you know, it would be gone, right? Because I guess they could do the show, but why would they? They don't have the games. So they won't have any rights to show anything. And then why would anybody tune into them if the games are somewhere else, right? So we all know that. And last night, Barkley said something like, this might be the last one. And Ernie Johnson corrected him and said, we have one more full year. And Barkley kind of pushed back, which was I'm going to get ahead of this. So I do think it's possible, because I think these other networks are probably going to approach him.
Yep.
Would he go to ESPN? Would he go to Amazon? Would he go to NBC if they asked? I'm sure they all would love to have him. Is his magic the same if he's on a very different set with very different people? Because the chemistry will automatically be different if they don't bring them together. I don't know. That worries me about him because I love him, but I love him on that show. I think he's really great on that show, and that stuff matters. And I have a funny feeling that, like, he's going to get ahead of this and go, am I going to wait out a year, or am I just going to go to where, the bread is buttered for the next 5 to 10 years? So we may have seen the last one of those last night. That's possible.
I think a dark horse for that show, I'll just say, because I think they'd be able to market it a certain way, is Barstool. I think you could have them, because Barstool's now mastered this weird, like, watch party thing now, where they put all of their personalities in a room and the camera faces them. And so they're watching the game and you see their reaction and them commentating on it. You could do that with them. I mean, and then you could do it from anywhere too. And that's why
people say to Barkley, you should do it under your own production company.
Could do that
and
too.
I suppose he could.
Could do that too.
Ernie's already stated, like, I'm staying at Turner because he does other things.
Yeah,
for
of
them.
course. Yeah.
And would this production company pay him to just do that, or would TNT allow him to do that? Probably not. So
maybe. I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
TNT might. I mean,
maybe
they might feel like it's beneficial for him to keep him in the limelight, so that he's doing things.
I think the NBA too might be smart to try to keep this group together.
I agree on that.
For their sport.
I agree on that.
It's good for their sport. Everyone agrees that, and no one thinks they've lost their fastball. They're all really good at it. Everyone's kind of lamenting the idea that it might be gone, and they may have one more full year with it before it shakes out. But I got a funny feeling Barkley's trying to get ahead of this now.
Yeah, right.
And he doesn't want to go through a whole year where it's all hanging over them. And then it becomes this storyline every night where they talk about their going fishing, because like their season's going to be over.
Yeah.
So I think we might have seen the end of it. And this would be, for me, like, I think it's the best studio show in sports, right, going.
Yep.
And I would liken it to when NFL primetime ended prematurely. Right. Boomer and Jackson did what I thought was the best studio show, but it partially was there was no red zone at the time. Mm-hmm. And also at the time, you saw what was regionally available to you. That's it. So when 7 o'clock rolled around, it was the first time you saw extended highlights. You saw highlights throughout the day, but you never saw like a 5-minute package of every game that Boomer and TJ would go through and then analysis of it. And that was the magic of it. They were really good at it, but it was also, you knew what the score was, but you didn't know the story they were able to tell it. Well, once everything got disseminated differently, and then the NFL kind of took those highlight rights away, it rendered that meaningless.
It's also remember there's no Sunday Night Football either. So you weren't getting this pre-show leading you into that night game either. So that was also, it changed, like they got whacked because there was another huge game on Sunday nights. Because once Sunday nights rolled around,
NBC
it was
said from 7:30, we're taking it. We show all the highlights of the day.
And it was not only that, it was, disseminated between everyone that was on that desk too. And it was like, well, of course I'm going to watch this instead of that. And so that at least was like, okay, you got whacked by another company, essentially.
Not unlike the way Barkley complained about the TNT executives and said, you're really screwing this up. You're screwing up the golden goose. Boomer did the same thing back in the day where he said, ESPN really screwed up here by losing the rights to the highlights because you neutered our show. Yeah. And our show was one of the best shows, period, on sports television. So I feel like that's where we are, that we're losing. This is the latest like grand sports television program that's going to be gone. And I have a funny feeling it is. Yeah. All right, let me take a quick break. Bram watches ESPN 630 Sports Capital. Oh, this stat from David Purdom, who does all the ESPN chalk stuff. Mm-hmm. The Celtics were underdogs 3 times all year, which is tied for the fewest by any team to reach the finals this century. The Mavericks were underdogs 42 times this year, most by any team to reach the finals this century. They were underdogs in more than half the games they played.
Wow.
And got to the finals.
All right. So
that's pretty amazing.
Rubber meets the road there.
Yes. All right. You want to do Ben Johnson round 2? So yesterday we read his quote about he wants more sunshine because there's the Caribbean on the horizon in Detroit and they were in the Arctic.
That's right.
And so that's why he didn't want to leave. He wanted to try to win. He wanted to finish the job.
I want someone to make a drink called the Detroit Sunrise. Yeah. What does that look like?
Oh, yeah, that'd be good. The Detroit Sunrise. Got some motor oil in it.
Blue Curacao, Coke.
Blue Curacao.
And Coke.
Yeah, Coke.
And then some kind of cream on the top.
Well, if it's Campbell, it's got like 5 shots of espresso.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just
so today he spoke. I guess the Lions are having like an OTA or something this week.
Right.
And so he spoke. And here's 2 minutes of Ben Johnson explaining why he did not want to be a head coach right now.
Something that really resonates with me is, 8 openings this past year. What would you set the over-under in 3 years? How many still have jobs? I'd put the over-under at 4.5. I would say there's a good chance 5 of them are out of jobs in 3 years. And so when I look at it from that perspective, if I get the opportunity to go down that road, it's about how do I get to that second contract? How do I set myself up that the stars need to align? I'm not going to do it just to do it. I love what I'm doing right now. Love it. I love where I'm at. My family loves where we're at. Love the people that we're doing it with. And so I'm not willing to go down the other path yet unless I feel really good about how it's going to unfold.
What's some 2 or 3 would make it?
Say it again?
I said that's what I meant, 2 or 3 would make it.
Right, yeah.
Under what circumstances would you, what are you looking for? What would be the right opportunity for you? Without naming teams or whatever, what sort of factors?
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to its ownership, its staff, its my vision of how I can make it work with how I know I am. Like part of me too. I love play calling, and so I would, if I took a head coaching job, would want to be a play calling head coach. Well, there's a limit on how much time there is during a week, and so what's it going to look like Monday through Sunday in that regard, and just want to make sure everything's nailed down. And listen, there's an adjustment period for every person that takes that job. They're learning on the fly, but I think the more that you have set, and feel good about, that gives you the best chance. I was actually talking with someone the other day about this. Man, the longer you're in the coordinator chair, it does nothing but help you and prepare you more for the next step if it ever comes down the pipe. So personally, I don't feel like I'm hurting my opportunities or my...
Okay. I have a lot to say about this. One, I love where I'm at. My family loves where I'm at. I love this team. I get it.
Sure. Fine.
Great.
Fine.
Like, you like where you are. I'm all for that. Like, you don't have to take another opportunity if you love where you are in life. So, good. Great. I mean,
Right.
like, that makes a lot of sense to me. And actually, I think if you just ended it there, I'd be like, oh, I mean, that makes complete sense to me. Like, Cousins said this a couple times about Minnesota. They just loved being there.
Yeah, right.
And
right.
I think honestly, he would have liked to have stayed, but like they screwed with him so much with the contract. He's like, you're giving me no choice here.
That's right.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. On the point of how many of the 8 this year will be here for their second contract,
Yeah.
right? Well, here's what I would say back to you. That is every coaching cycle.
That's all of them. Yeah.
That will never not be true.
Right. Exactly.
Like that will always be true. You're right about that. So you're telling me that you know which one will be the hand-picked one that you are pretty certain you will get the contract to.
Right.
That's what you're saying. Having, in most cases, in almost 99% of the time, you'll have never worked for that ownership group.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Because you're working for the Lions. Mrs. Ford isn't buying a different team and then hiring you to be the head coach.
That's right. Yes. Correct.
Right. So you're always going to be leap of faith that way. And how many make it to the second contract? He's right. Like, there's a lot of factors that go into that, not just his performance, but how is the team put together? How do they perform? What kind of patience does the ownership have? What kind of outside pressure gets put on them? Who gets blamed when things go wrong? Like, there's a lot of that, and I agree with all of it. But to sit here and say now you could forecast which one's going to be right, I wish you a lot of luck with that. Like, I do. I don't know how you would pick that and know for a fact you'd be able to get to that. And that part, especially now in the we got to win now mentality, that will never not be true. It
Right.
will always be true, no matter which coaching cycle that you're in.
Yeah. And not only that, to say it out loud like that, that's any job ever when you get promoted. It comes with more responsibility, more pressure,
Yes.
always more money, usually. But what he described was, I'm just going to stand pat because I don't want to take that next step.
I don't want to
and
take
take that
now.
pressure now.
Now.
And whatever. I mean, there are people that, especially millennials, right? We're seeing this a lot where millennials are like, I don't want that promotion. That's way too much work for not enough pay or whatever it's going to be. But you're in a different game, literally. And you're telling me all these factors that are just normal within the sport is why you don't want to take the next leap. It's really kind of baffling to me. And in a sport, by the way, where every single time a head coach gets one of these gigs and they fail, they get a coordinator gig the next year.
If they want it.
Yeah, nobody's out.
Unless they fail spectacularly.
Sure, but
even like
him.
Ben McAdoo was a coordinator again.
Right. Him, though, he's 38.
Adam Gase got a second opportunity as a head coach.
I think you're right. Like, the older coaches, like Ron's level, like a level of age, they usually don't. But he's 30. But
even Zimmer's got one again.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Zimmer's got
But
one.
he didn't have a bad run in Minnesota, in my opinion. He had a fine run. They made the playoffs a couple times.
But Johnson is 38. He's going to get another gig if he were fired within 5 years of here anyways.
No doubt.
So, like,
No
I
doubt.
don't know. You've got to fall back. It's the job you're in.
And also when you say the way he described it, the ownership has to do this, the staff has to be this, all these things. You know, the Commanders, and they'll say, we didn't offer him the job.
Right.
But we all know where this was heading and that he was a prime candidate, to
That's right.
potentially get it in the end. When you say that out loud, you are saying, I didn't think the Commanders were set up for me to get to the second contract. So it is a bit of, that's how I surveyed them.
Right.
It is.
Yeah, right.
Because if you're saying, well, only, the odds are that only 3 of the 8 are going to be there. Well, I didn't think they were one of them.
Right.
Or maybe he thought none of them were.
Maybe. I mean, I guess.
Maybe.
At that point.
At that point, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
All right. So there's that. The other one where he said, I want it set up my way. Okay, fine.
Fine.
Like, I want to be a play caller. Dan Quinn's a play caller here.
Right.
What are you talking about? Like, it's another one where I go, they're letting him call the plays if he wants to.
Yeah.
He could turn it over to Joe Witt, but as far as I could tell, I think Dan Quinn's going to call the plays. I don't think that's totally settled.
Yeah.
But it's up to him. It's his choice whether he wants to do it. So, again, you could have done that here.
That's right. It was up to you.
It was up to you,
It's your
actually.
show, pal.
It's your show. Like, we're hiring you to run your offense the way we hired Dan Quinn to run his defense.
Right.
Like, I don't even know what I don't know what you're getting at there. And then the last one was, which I thought was the best one that I heard. The longer you stay in the coordinator position, the more you become ready for this. Go ask Eric Bieniemy about that.
Right. Very true.
Is that right? Is that right? Because you know what? Like, and to your point about like coaches that failed, Matt Nagy went right back to the Chiefs.
That's right. Yep.
Like
exactly.
failed with the Bears, went right back to the Chiefs. So, that whole idea of, well, if you just sit in this position long enough, when you're ready, they'll come calling for you. Maybe, maybe not.
In fact,
maybe not.
In fact, go ask Dan Quinn. He wasn't going to learn the things that he learned as a coordinator. He learned about it being a head coach. So when he got another crack at it, he was a better head coach.
And he has openly admitted, I wasn't sure that I would get another crack at it. And he coached in a Super Bowl.
That's right. Yep. Exactly.
He coached in a Super Bowl and was fighting to get an opportunity to get back into the position that he has again.
Right.
Again, this comes down, this is spilled milk. I'm happy with the people who are here because I want people who want to be here. And he didn't want to be here.
Yep.
So fine. And they also, and they'll say this to you, we had never offered him the job.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
we were going to interview him. He was clearly a primary candidate we wanted to talk to, but like, we hadn't offered him the job. And they'll say now, whether it's true or not true, that Dan Quinn was always kind of the 1 or 1A choice for us anyway, but we wanted to meet everybody. Mm-hmm. He didn't give them the opportunity to convince them because he didn't want to be convinced.
Right. Exactly.
But that also means all of these other things didn't line up the way he thought they would line up. And he's telling himself, if I just keep doing this, it'll be fine. Here's the other problem with that. The longer you stay in the coordinator position, the more viable you become as a candidate. Yeah, if you keep winning.
Right. Right. Exactly.
What if the Lions are 17th in offense this year? Not that I expect them to be,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
what if they are?
No, it's the same thing.
What if they are?
I said this the other day. What if Dan Quinn has 2 bad years?
Right.
They clear everyone out.
Yeah. What if Dan Quinn's defense suddenly isn't top 10 anymore and is 20th? Well,
Right.
guess how long that's going to last.
Right. Exactly.
Say there, you can stay there with the Lions. I agree. It seems like you have a good thing going. And guess what? The league changes every single year, and all of a sudden, if you guys start 1-3 because your offense scores 10 points a game, and everyone starts going, "See, I told you, Goff's not that good."
Right.
Guess who's going to not look so shiny anymore?
Exactly.
Good luck with that. One other quick thing. So Bleacher Report is pointing out the thing that I pointed out about if I were to take a swing, if I'm the Commanders, go get Justin Jefferson if he's available because they have $40-some million in cap room. They're advocating the Commanders go after T. Higgins because I think he's going to have to be traded.
Yep, right.
That one feels like they're going to have to make a choice. Higgins wants too much money. They've got to pay Chase. They're not going to give them both the money. And I would say to the Bleacher Report, wrong guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he's a really good player. I don't want to sign him for $30 million a year. He'd be making more than Terry is, and I don't know that he's better than Terry McLaurin. And so I'm of this mindset that they do have the room to take the swing if they wanted to, but I only want them to do it for a surefire number 1 difference-making player, which is why if Justin Jefferson is available, okay, I'll hear that out. T. Higgins, I think, is a very, very good player who this team has shown no propensity to overspend for anybody in this year 1 revamp. That would be an overspend.
Agree, especially with what's going to happen next year where you're going to get somebody that's open. Like you're going to get either Ayuk or Debo moved out of San Fran finally.
I'd be more inclined to give it to Ayuk than I would to Higgins.
Agree. And you're going to get something's got to give with Jefferson.
And I don't think he is like a P1 difference making. I think he's a very, very good player.
Right.
I look at Jefferson and I go, you really want to take the swing, do it with a guy who's a top 5 complete difference maker.
Yeah.
Higgins might be really good here, might just be a number 2. You're going to pay him like a number 1?
Right.
No. All right, we'll take a quick break. You'll hear from Tara Mckeown next. Bram Show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. Let's welcome in Tara Mckeown from the Washington Spirit on a week off of play as all of the national team festivities are happening in the world of soccer. Hey, Tara, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You know, like if there was ever a week where I don't think you guys needed a week off, it's definitely this one. You guys have been playing so well recently. So how is the team kind of handling this week with no match and a number of your teammates away on assignment?
Yeah, I think we kind of went into this week with the deload mindset. We have been playing a lot of games and been playing well, but I think we're just trying to get our bodies right so we're ready for next weekend.
Okay. And is this a bad week to have a week off the way you guys are playing? Do you believe in momentum? How do you kind of feel about not playing this weekend?
I think it's kind of nice, honestly, to have a break, be able to reset the mind, reset the body. And yeah, just we'll cheer on our teammates that are away and then get ready to go play against Utah. I think everyone will come back with like fresh, clear minds and ready to compete again.
Last couple of weeks, the team scored a combined 7 goals in the first half. What's been happening the last couple of weeks offensively for the Spirit to get off to the starts that you've had?
Yeah, we've been working on our starts a lot. I think, as you know, the beginning of the season, we may have given up a couple goals like in the first few minutes. And now going into the games, we really focus on the first 15 minutes, attacking them and playing in their half so that we are able to get chances and hopefully not concede any.
You are the only player for the team that's played every minute, every match this season. Is that a statistic or a characteristic of yours that's important to you to be on the field for every minute of every game?
Yeah, I think it's great. I love playing. I think being a player who can consistently play on the field, those minutes is great for me. I think it helps my confidence and then helps me just get in rhythm with the team and being able to lead from the back. So yeah, I like playing the minutes and I want to keep playing.
Have they ever tried to pull you off and you had to argue your way to stay on, or is this just kind of a known fact? We don't pull Tara off of the field.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. I mean, with the loading and stuff, maybe they'll have to start having those conversations, but I'll definitely fight to try and stay on the field.
Let me go back a few years ago. You were drafted here and the team ended up winning a championship in your rookie year. Obviously, with the way the rookie class this year is playing and your standings, there seems that there's some similarities to that season. Could you go back to your rookie year and assimilating with the Spirit and why it worked for you in your rookie year and why it worked for the team that year?
I think that year we had to come together as a team a lot with all the stuff that was going on around us. So we really were able to bond on and off the field and just know that we had each other's backs and wanted to play for each other. And that's what ultimately got us to the final and then winning that game. I think our team now has a lot of characteristics the same, that we want to play for each other, have each other's backs. So hopefully we're on the same trajectory.
Obviously, the team made some trades and brought in these rookies who are having immediate and, in the case of Croy Bethune, like profound impacts here on the early part of the season. Did you know early in camp or early in the season that it could be like this with this new group?
Yeah, for sure. I knew like preseason was so great with all the rookies. All of them were able to compete and play against the team that was here the previous year. And especially I knew Croy from USC. So I know that she has a competitive style and her coming in, she would just fit right in with the team. And I knew she would work to be on the field and then obviously produce for us on the field.
What can you tell us about Croy from what you knew about her when she was playing collegiately?
She's just a special player. She's great on the ball. She is able to find passes that sometimes you're like, oh, that's like to no one. And then out of nowhere, Ule scores. Yeah. So she has this vision about her that is way beyond her years. And yeah, I think she's just a great player, special on the ball, and yeah, very good with both feet as well.
Obviously, you played for the same program, USC. Why is that program so successful? Why is it producing so many great players in women's soccer right now?
I think when we were there, it was definitely the coaching style. And I know that there's been coaching changes now, but I think it's a victory mindset when you go to a program like that and just wanting to produce for the city. And we knew going in, like, the standards, and the standards were upheld when we were there.
You were a forward there. You were a forward for the Spirit when you first came to the team. You've shifted positions. It's a change that occurred last year, and obviously you're excelling with the change. Could you kind of take me through that transition period, and how it kind of worked for you and how it's working now?
Yeah, I think I was definitely shocked when I first got the news that they wanted to try me at center back, and I wasn't sure if I would be able to do as well as I was doing. But I think definitely last year, with the confidence that they had in me back there, it helped me be able to have confidence in myself. And I think that's just growing this year. And now with the coaching change and the style of play they want to play, I think I'm just trying to get better each week and every game and just help our team win.
It's interesting because you had a position change, then there was a coaching change and a style change. Were you convinced you would stay at the position you had switched to entering this year? Did you know you would stay at that position?
Yeah, I knew. I think I kind of knew last year once they changed me back there and I did well that I would probably end up staying there for a long part of my career, if not maybe the rest of it. So I think now it's just trying to be the best center back I can be.
Is it a fun position for you? You seem to have taken to it. It's a change. Do you enjoy the game the same way you used to?
Yeah, definitely. I think in the beginning I was like kind of missing scoring and being up top and being like around the goals and goal celebrations. Maybe I'm a little late to them, but I think me and Anna, when we're like running up to greet the team after we score, we're doing our own little celebrations. So I think I'm definitely having fun back there. I like being on the ball. I like leading from the back and just like starting the build up that hopefully leads to our goals.
All right, last thing for you. Obviously, it's been just a tremendous start for the team up to this point. To continue this, what does the team need to do to continue its success?
I think it's the same thing. Just go into every week with just one game ahead of us, trying to understand the game plan and the tactics that we need to win that game and not looking too far ahead. You can always get caught up in like the standings and where you are and making the playoffs, but that's a ways away. And we still have a lot of games that we just want to get better each week.
Tara, thanks so much for the time. Have a good weekend off, and we look forward to seeing you against Utah next week.
Thank you.
All right, it's Tara Mckeown. You said Gabby Carl did a thing in French.
Yeah, I guess she did a like a Players Tribune. It looks like the name is RDS. It's in Canada, so I guess that would be.
Well, she's Canadian.
Okay,
yeah.
so that would be but I'm saying that's like their ESPN or what, like their TSN type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually pretty interesting. It's a quick read if you want to check it out. Google Translate does a pretty good job of translating it to English. And we talked about last week about how in the Seattle game, the first one of the season, they got scored on the first minute. That was final score 1-0. Then they played Bay FC, and Bay FC scored like 10 minutes into that one. And they were she basically says after 10 minutes of play, they were losing again, and it wasn't enough to silence all the doubts around the team, because here it is, they're all young teams. They made these trades. They're all brand new. She literally writes, our anxiety increased as the minutes passed until the end of the first half, and then Hal Hirschfeld scored, and all of a sudden it was a tie game. And she said that's when the season started.
Oh.
When Hal Hirschfeld scored to tie that game up, that's when it was on. She said this is the trigger we needed. And in the second half, that uncertainty seemed to have that started the season was gone.
Oh.
That basically when they tied it up finally, they scored that first goal, that all of a sudden they played more confident. It said they played the second half really tough. And they said from that, they got a victory when Corey Bethune then scored. And that kind of started her, elevation to how she is now one of the best rookies ever that the league has ever seen. So she basically says, that first game, those first 10 minutes of the second game, wash. Don't even count them in the season. So it was a really good write-up by her.
Tell Luke we'll talk to Gabby Carl next week for the show.
There you
and,
go.
I've got a thread line to talk to her about for sure.
There
it
you
won't
go.
happen in French,
No,
but I'll be glad
sure.
to talk to her.
For sure.
Right.
As I said, too, the U.S. women takes on South Korea tomorrow. That's at 5 o'clock. So if you want to see all the Spirit players that are playing, you can watch that game tomorrow.
Yep. Spirit off. They'll get Utah next week. The Hard Knocks is going to be the Bears this year. There's an off-season version with the Giants that I think is going to start probably in the next few weeks, probably,
Yeah,
right?
you'd
Over
think so.
OTAs and all that stuff.
Right.
And then it's going to be the Bears, which was an obvious choice. They haven't done it before. They don't have a new coach. They don't have the way out of it. They have Caleb Williams.
Yep.
They have a lot of different things going on there. They're a good story. So I think this should be a good one.
It's also a good franchise too. Like they're going to get a lot of good crowd reactions. They're going to get a lot of. I mean, they're going to deal with their own stadium stuff too. I'm sure we'll see a slice of that, right? So, yeah, no, it's a good one. And I'm sure if you're the Bears, honestly, they're probably going, let's get it out of the way because if this guy's good, we ain't doing this for a long time, essentially. So.
Yeah, and I would, if I'm them, I'd rather do it now in his rookie year before he's ever played.
That's right.
Than if he's not as good in his first year, then they hoped, and then all of a sudden it's just a lot of pressure on them. The cameras are following him around. They're asking him why he wasn't so great his first year, all that stuff.
Right.
So this is the right time to do it, and he's an interesting character, so I think it's going to be willing participant. And they got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Rome Odunze as their top 3 receivers right now. It's set up for them to walk in and be pretty good. They're a wild card this year. I mean, a full on I don't mean make the playoffs, but I don't know what they're going to be.
Correct.
Wild card
Correct.
team.
The offense looks amazing on paper.
It does. Well, they got DeAndre Swift too, so they have a good NFL running back. They're trying to bolster their line. We'll see how good Caleb is. Their defense has gotten better. I mean, it's set up for them to make a leap. Like they should be Houston-y this year.
Correct.
Should
exactly.
be. So that's why old Ben up in Detroit, who's telling me over and over that as long as I stay here, we're going to get the sunshine from the Caribbean. I don't know if you're following what's happening in your division right now, but I would make an argument that we don't know what the Bears are, and the Packers might be on your level.
That's right.
Already.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like Jordan Love might be better than Jared Goff, and you know it.
If JJ McCarthy's good, then you never know there.
That's JJ. Well, that team, they're going to trade Justin Jefferson for a 4th-round pick. I mean, that's happening any day now. There was one, a reporter for The Athletic up there went after his colleagues that were reporting the Minnesota tried to trade up to get Malik Neighbors thing and basically bashing them. Florio said it, and the St. Paul Pioneer Press reported it. Who's to say they're wrong?
Right. I mean, maybe because it is such a ridiculous thing.
It is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, maybe because that's why it didn't happen. I don't know. I mean,
it is ridiculous.
So maybe that's what he's saying.
Maybe.
Vet your sources a little bit.
London is pushing hard to try to get the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Please no.
Yeah. Let's stop this, guys.
Let's. I want to keep that one here.
Yeah. That's an economic boom.
Let's keep that one here.
Why
are we giving that to them?
If
come on.
If you're even flirting that way, Congress is going to come knocking of going, you guys like those, tax exempt things, right? Don't think that's happening.
Here's how they'll get that. Put a team there.
Right.
The NFL has to want to do that, number one. I've heard they want 2 teams there, not 1.
Okay.
Because they want to try to figure out a way to maximize and minimize travel for somebody. They'll obviously be in the same division, so they'll play each other a couple times, and because they already know that that's going to be tough.
Well, yeah, duh. Yeah.
That free agent run to try to get people to go play there is going to be tough.
It's going to be, you're going to have to double salaries for getting people to go there.
F.A. Obata's cool,
yeah.
But just about everybody else.
Your boy Trev.
Yeah. You think Harbaugh's going there?
No.
How do you think he'd go over as the coach of the London team?
They think he's...
They'd be like, what a weirdo.
He's their,
Wanker!
Yeah, their version of Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Who's this guy?
What?
Yeah.
What did he say?
Right.
Is he breathing through his mouth constantly?
Breathing through his mouth.
What's wrong with him? It would take a very special coach, I think. Very, very, very special coach. All right, we got Reggie Barlow coming up.
Yep.
All right, Reggie Barlow, coach of the Defenders, will join us next. Bram, watch the show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. I saw tonight that ESPN is going to do a feature on the beer snake that, of course, has become famous at Audi Field during Defenders games. And I saw a clip of it, and they actually go through historical context of the beer snake. And so they're going to do that feature tonight, and obviously it's going to be on the game broadcast tomorrow as the Defenders will end their season against the Arlington Renegades on Sunday at Audi Field with a noon kickoff as we welcome in the head coach of the Defenders, Reggie Barlow. How you doing, Coach?
Bram, how's it going?
I'm doing all
How
right.
you guys doing? Yeah, I'm doing well, too. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. So season is coming to an end this weekend, 4-5. I know it's not probably the record that you wanted. Can you kind of take us through, what you had hoped had gone a little bit differently this year?
Yeah, obviously the win column, we would have wanted that to be a little bit different, but We got the injury bug a little bit. We lost our best running back, AB, back in training camp, and we had a lot of other issues. But the guys still played hard. Right, the guys that were here still played hard, and if you look at the biggest thing, the turnover ratio. To have a chance to be successful, win a lot of games, play for championships, you got to win the turnover ratio, and I think we're sitting at -3 right now. So we didn't win that, and that's a tribute to where we are right now.
You had a tough start. So, what did you learn about this team through the season?
Well, I did learn that we got guys that will persevere, guys that will stay in the fight and continue to work hard and compete. That really makes us happy and proud, even to, last week, going and play in Memphis against a team and, getting themselves up and, not being, we use the thing, let's be better and not bitter, and let's take constructive criticism. I think our guys have done that all year, and we was able to get a win last week, and it'll be huge to end our season there at Audi Field with the win. So really looking forward to seeing these guys compete on Sunday.
You would end 500. What would that mean to you? I mean, it would suggest a turnaround here at the end of the season for your team.
Yeah, I think it would be a win for us. All right. I mean, obviously we don't want to go having a parade for 5-5, but we definitely want to be able to say, hey, we fought through adversity, we overcame some stuff, we found a way to win and end our season on a positive note in front of our fans, and being 500, we'll take that. But the more positive part of it will be winning your last 2 games and going into your off season, with a positive vibe about how you finished it.
You've been around football for so long. I have as well, obviously in a different role, but that year to year, it's so hard to replicate what you do. I mean, you guys were 9-1 a year ago, got to the championship game, and here you are trying to get to 500. Can you kind of talk to that, how every year is so different?
Yeah, I mean, every year and every game has a life of its own, and that's how you have to judge it. And, last year, had nothing to do with this year, and this year won't have nothing to do with the next year. But the margin of error in pro sports, pro football, basketball, and all that stuff is so narrow. And, last year we had some plays where, you go back and think to the Seattle game, we're about to lose it. I think it was the first game of the season. They're on the 1-inch line, and we get knocked back from our D tackle. Quarterback drops the ball. We recover it. We go on and win a game. So those type plays, we had Mike Joe with the big pick 6 last year. Those type plays, we didn't have as many of them in timely time. So, and that's what it's about. It's a small margin of error. And it's you got to make the plays when you have a chance to make them. And, but like I said, we are proud of these guys. They played well. They practiced hard today, been practicing hard all week. And we really appreciate them. And I know they're ready to come and play in Audi Field and give our fans something to cheer about.
Yeah, we're excited to see it. It's fun atmosphere. It's always fun games. Wish you guys a lot of luck as you end the season here this weekend against Arlington. And as always, thank you for spending some time with us today. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. I really appreciate you guys. Thank y'all.